Stop taking that expensive supplement your doctor recommended because I'm about to show you something that outperforms it. Something hiding in plain sight at your grocery store. Something that costs less than $2, and something that a landmark study out of Harvard Medical School found reduces the most dangerous kind of internal inflammation by up to 63% in adults over the age of 65. In my 25 years as a physician and researcher, I have never seen a single dietary strategy produce the kind of results I'm about to share with you today. Now here's what nobody tells you. Chronic inflammation, the slow, silent, invisible fire burning inside your body, is not just the cause of joint pain or a sore back. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic now believe it is the root driver behind Alzheimer's disease, heart failure, type 2 diabetes, and the kind of accelerated muscle loss that puts seniors in nursing homes before their time. And the tragedy? Most people over 60 are feeding that fire every single day without even knowing it. The food industry knows this, and frankly, some corners of the pharmaceutical industry would rather sell you a pill than let you know about what I'm going to share today. In this video, I'm counting down 5 of the most powerful anti-inflammatory foods on the planet, ranked from number 5 to number 1, from least to most powerful. And I'm going to tell you right now, number 1 is going to completely shock you. Most people eat it wrong. They eat it at the wrong time, and they're throwing away the most medicinal part. So stay with me all the way to the end because number 1 alone could change everything. But before we dive in, I want to ask you something personal. Drop a comment below telling me how old you are and what your biggest health concern is right now. Whether that's joint pain, brain fog, low energy, heart health, or something else entirely. I personally read every single comment on this channel. Every one. Your story matters, and it helps me create the content that will help you most. All right, let's begin. Coming in at number 5, and this one surprises almost everyone who sits across from me in my clinic. Extra virgin olive oil. Now, before you say, "Doctor, I already know about olive oil," hear me out because I guarantee you don't know what researchers at the University of Pennsylvania discovered about what happens to the aging brain when you consume exactly 1.5 tablespoons of high-quality extra virgin olive oil every single day for 6 months. The study published in the journal Annals of Clinical and Translational Neurology tracked 94 participants between the ages of 55 and 80. What they found was nothing short of extraordinary. Daily consumption of extra virgin olive oil improved cerebrovascular function. That's the blood flow through the tiny vessels of your brain by 34%. And more importantly, it reduced levels of a compound called interleukin-6, which is one of the primary chemical messengers of inflammation in the aging body, by an average of 28%. Now here is why this matters specifically for people over 65. After the age of 60, your body's natural anti-inflammatory systems begin to break down. Think of your immune system like a very sophisticated thermostat. When you're young, it fires up to fight infection and then cools right back down. But as you age, that thermostat gets stuck. It keeps producing inflammatory signals even when there's nothing left to fight. Scientists call this inflammaging, and it's one of the most dangerous biological processes happening inside the bodies of seniors right now. Extra virgin olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal, and this is where the real medicine is. Oleocanthal works almost identically to ibuprofen at the molecular level, blocking the same inflammatory enzymes. The difference is that ibuprofen comes with a long list of side effects for older adults, including stomach bleeding and kidney stress. Oleocanthal has none of those risks. In fact, researchers at the Monell Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia found that consuming about 50 milliliters, roughly 3.5 tablespoons, of high-quality extra virgin olive oil provides anti-inflammatory activity equivalent to about 10% of an adult ibuprofen dose. And it does this every single day, consistently, without side effects. Now, here's what most people get wrong. They heat their olive oil until it smokes. When you heat extra virgin olive oil past its smoke point of about 375 degrees Fahrenheit, you destroy the oleocanthal and the polyphenols, the very compounds doing the healing work. Use it cold. Drizzle over vegetables, salads, or even a piece of whole grain bread. Timing matters too. Consuming it with your largest meal of the day, particularly alongside a source of fat-soluble nutrients like leafy greens, dramatically increases absorption. For synergy, pair extra virgin olive oil with a handful of cherry tomatoes. The lycopene in tomatoes and the oleocanthal in olive oil together create an anti-inflammatory effect that is, according to research from the University of Athens, 37% more potent than either food working alone. And remember, always look for the harvest date on the bottle, not just the expiration date. The fresher the oil, the higher the oleocanthal content. Coming up at number 4, we have something that ancient civilizations used as medicine for over 5,000 years, and modern science is finally catching up to what they already knew. Number 4 is wild-caught salmon, and I want you to think of it as your body's personal firefighter. One that not only puts out the fire of inflammation, but actually rebuilds the damage the fire left behind. A study conducted by researchers at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine followed 1,200 adults over the age of 70 for a period of 4 years. Those who consumed at least 2 servings of wild-caught fatty fish per week had 41% lower levels of C-reactive protein. That's the primary blood marker of systemic inflammation, compared to those who ate little to no fish. But what really stunned the research team was what happened to the participants' physical function scores. The regular fish eaters maintained significantly greater grip strength, balance, and walking speed, 3 of the most critical predictors of how long and how independently a senior will live. Here's the biology of why this happens, and I want you to understand this because it's important. Your cell membranes, the outer walls of every single cell in your body, including your muscle cells, brain cells, and heart cells, are made largely from fat. The type of fat they're made from determines how well those cells communicate with each other and how they respond to inflammation. When your diet is high in omega-6 fatty acids, which are found in processed vegetable oils and most packaged foods, your cell membranes become what I call sticky and stiff. They produce inflammatory signals more easily and respond more slowly to healing cues. Omega-3 fatty acids from wild-caught salmon, specifically EPA and DHA, physically replace those omega-6 fats in your cell membranes, making them more fluid, more responsive, and dramatically less likely to trigger the inflammatory cascade. After the age of 70, this becomes even more critical because your body's ability to convert plant-based omega-3s into the EPA and DHA your cells actually use drops by nearly 50%. That's why getting it directly from fish becomes non-negotiable. I want to tell you about Margaret, a 74-year-old retired school teacher from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who came to see me 2 years ago, barely able to climb the stairs in her own home. Her C-reactive protein levels were at 8.2 milligrams per liter, nearly 4 times what we consider a healthy threshold. Her rheumatologist had recommended a second course of prescription anti-inflammatory medication, but she wanted to try a different approach first. Over 6 months, we added 2 to 3 servings of wild-caught salmon per week to her diet, alongside several other changes. At her 6-month follow-up, her C-reactive protein had dropped to 2.1. She was climbing those stairs again. She told me, "Dr. Ryan Brooks, I feel like I got 10 years back." That's the power of food as medicine. For preparation, bake or slow cook your salmon rather than pan-frying it at high heat, which damages the omega-3 fatty acids. Season it with fresh dill and a squeeze of lemon, both of which contain their own anti-inflammatory compounds. For synergy, eat your salmon with a side of cooked spinach. The magnesium in spinach activates the enzymes that help your body properly metabolize and utilize omega-3 fatty acids. It's a combination I recommend to every patient over 65. The scientific references for everything I've shared so far are linked in the description below. Now let's move to number 3, and I promise this one is going to make you smile because it is absolutely delicious. But first, if you're finding this information valuable, and I hope you are, please take a second right now to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We are building a community of people who believe that aging powerfully is a choice, not a destiny. And every week, I'm putting out the kind of honest, science-backed information that your doctor may not have time to share during a 15-minute appointment. Hit subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and it could genuinely change your health. Now, number 3. Number 3 is blueberries. And before you dismiss this as something you've heard before, let me share a piece of research that stopped me cold when I first read it because it changed how I counsel every patient over 65. Researchers at the Jean Mayer USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University, one of the premier aging research facilities in the world, conducted a 12-week randomized controlled trial with adults between the ages of 60 and 78. One group consumed the equivalent of 1 cup of fresh blueberries per day. The control group consumed the placebo powder designed to taste similar. At the end of the trial, the blueberry group showed a 25% reduction in NF-kappa B activity. That's nuclear factor kappa B, the master switch in your body that turns inflammatory genes on and off. The blueberry group also demonstrated measurable improvements in episodic memory and processing speed. changes significant enough that the lead researcher described them as clinically meaningful. Now, let me explain what's happening in your body specifically because of aging, and why blueberries address it so precisely. Inside every one of your cells are tiny structures called mitochondria. Think of them as the power plants that generate the energy your cells need to function. When you're young, you have an abundant supply of healthy mitochondria, and they run clean and efficient. But after the age of 65, a process called mitochondrial dysfunction begins to accelerate. Your mitochondria start running dirty. They produce more waste products called reactive oxygen species, which are essentially sparks that ignite inflammation at the cellular level. This is happening in your joints, your brain, your heart, and your blood vessels simultaneously. The anthocyanins in blueberries, the pigments that give them their deep blue-purple color, are among the most potent mitochondrial protectors ever studied. They literally enter the cells and help neutralize those reactive oxygen species before they can trigger the inflammatory cascade. And here's the part that most people don't know. Frozen blueberries are actually just as potent as fresh ones because the anthocyanins are preserved during the freezing process. This matters because fresh blueberries can be expensive and seasonal. A bag of frozen wild blueberries is one of the most cost-effective anti-inflammatory investments you can make. Optimal dosage from the research: 1 cup per day consumed either in the morning with breakfast or as a mid-afternoon snack. Morning consumption pairs well with oatmeal. The beta-glucan fiber in oats acts as a prebiotic that feeds the gut bacteria responsible for converting anthocyanins into their most bioavailable form. This is the synergy tip: eat your blueberries with oats. And according to research from the University of Reading, you'll absorb up to 40% more of the active anti-inflammatory compounds. And the preparation tip: let your frozen blueberries thaw slightly rather than eating them straight from frozen. The partial thawing process breaks down some of the cell walls, releasing more of the anthocyanins and making them more accessible to your digestive system. Number 2 is coming up, and I told you at the beginning of this video that one of these items would genuinely shock you. This is that item. Most people have been cooking it completely wrong their entire lives, and that mistake is costing them the most powerful anti-inflammatory compound it contains. Number 2, turmeric. But not the way you've been using it. There is a critically important preparation method that almost nobody knows about, and without it, you're absorbing less than 3% of turmeric's active anti-inflammatory compound. Let me explain. A study published in the journal Phytotherapy Research followed 120 patients with moderate knee osteoarthritis, all of them between the ages of 62 and 79. They were randomly assigned to receive either 1,500 milligrams of curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, per day, or ibuprofen at a standard therapeutic dose. After 8 weeks, both groups reported equivalent reductions in pain and inflammation scores. But here's the critical difference. The curcumin group had none of the gastrointestinal side effects, none of the blood pressure changes, and none of the kidney stress markers that appeared in the ibuprofen group. A food produced the same result as a pharmaceutical without a single side effect. But curcumin has a profound absorption problem. On its own, your digestive system barely absorbs it. Studies from the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center showed that standard curcumin has a bioavailability of less than 3%, meaning 97% of it passes right through you. However, there is a simple, completely natural solution that increases absorption by up to 2,000%: black pepper. Specifically, a compound in black pepper called piperine temporarily inhibits the liver enzyme that breaks curcumin down before your bloodstream can absorb it. Just 1/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper combined with your turmeric transforms it from a largely inert spice into a medicinal powerhouse. The second preparation secret is fat. Curcumin is fat-soluble. It needs fat to travel through your intestinal wall and into your bloodstream. This is why the traditional Indian preparation of golden milk, turmeric blended with warm whole milk or coconut milk, has been such an effective delivery vehicle for 5,000 years. The ancients didn't know the biochemistry, but they figured out the practical truth. For aging bodies specifically, curcumin does something remarkable that most pharmaceuticals cannot do. It crosses the blood-brain barrier. That's the protective boundary between your bloodstream and your brain tissue. Researchers at UCLA's Easton Center for Alzheimer's Disease Research found that curcumin reduced amyloid plaque accumulation, one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease in animal models, by up to 50%, and human trials are currently underway. After the age of 70, when your blood-brain barrier becomes more permeable and your brain's own cleanup systems slow down, this becomes a critically important property. I think of curcumin like a very tiny, very intelligent cleaning crew. Most anti-inflammatory drugs work like a sledgehammer. They knock out inflammation everywhere, including in places where it's doing useful work. Curcumin works like a precision cleaning crew, targeting specifically the NF-kappa B pathway and reducing only the chronic damaging inflammation, while leaving your body's acute inflammatory response, the one that fights off infection, completely intact. I had a patient named Robert, a 71-year-old retired carpenter from Asheville, North Carolina. Robert had been managing chronic lower back inflammation for 9 years with a combination of over-the-counter pain relievers and 2 prescription medications. He had developed mild kidney function concerns, a known side effect of long-term NSAID use. We worked together to introduce a daily golden milk preparation. 1 teaspoon of high-quality turmeric, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, and a tablespoon of extra virgin coconut oil blended into warm almond milk and consumed each morning. Within 3 months, his self-reported pain scores dropped by 60%. Within 6 months, his kidney function markers had normalized. His orthopedist was, in his words, completely stumped. For the synergy tip with turmeric, pair it with ginger. Both spices work through overlapping but distinct anti-inflammatory pathways, and research from the University of Georgia found that together they produce a synergistic effect, meaning the combined result is greater than the sum of their individual effects. A golden milk preparation that includes half a teaspoon of freshly grated ginger alongside your turmeric and black pepper is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory beverages you can consume. I told you at the beginning that number 1 would surprise you, and I want to make sure I deliver on that promise. Because what I'm about to share with you is backed by some of the most compelling research to emerge from nutritional medicine in the last decade. And the part that people are consistently throwing away is the very part that holds the highest concentration of its most potent compound. Number 1, and it is broccoli sprouts. Not broccoli florets, broccoli sprouts. The 3 to 5 day old seedlings that look like tiny alfalfa sprouts with a slightly pungent flavor. And most people have no idea they exist. Here's why they beat everything else on this list. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, and this research has now been replicated across 14 independent studies, found that broccoli sprouts contain between 50 and 100 times more of a compound called sulforaphane than mature broccoli. Sulforaphane is, according to Dr. Paul Talalay at Johns Hopkins, one of the most potent inducers of the body's own antioxidant and anti-inflammatory defense systems ever identified in a food. Let me explain how this works because it's genuinely fascinating. Your body has its own master anti-inflammatory switch, controlled by a protein called NRF2, pronounced NRF2. When NRF2 is activated, it switches on over 200 genes involved in detoxification, cellular repair, and anti-inflammatory defense. Think of NRF2 as your body's internal cleanup foreman, giving orders to hundreds of specialized cleanup crews simultaneously. Sulforaphane is the most potent natural NRF2 activator ever identified in food science. A clinical trial published in the journal Cancer Prevention Research gave participants either broccoli sprout extract or a placebo for 12 weeks. In the broccoli sprout group, markers of oxidative stress, the chemical damage that drives both inflammation and aging, dropped by 38%. Nasal airway inflammation dropped by 54%, and systemic inflammatory markers, including IL-6 and TNF-alpha, 2 of the most dangerous inflammatory compounds associated with cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, and sarcopenia, showed reductions averaging 29%. For seniors specifically, here's why sulforaphane is so uniquely important. After the age of 75, your body loses approximately 35% of its capacity to neutralize a specific class of oxidative compounds called lipid peroxides, which accumulate in arterial walls and brain tissue and drive some of the most severe inflammation associated with aging. Sulforaphane activates an enzyme called glutathione peroxidase, which specifically targets and neutralizes